Jacob Singer is afraid. When he walks down the street, people are watching. When he comes home at night, people are waiting. Jacob Singer is running out of time. This fall, Adrian Lyne, the director of Fatal Attraction, brings us a disturbing new vision. Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah, this is a very underrated movie. I mean, when it came out, it was a hit on its opening weekend. It actually opened at #1 at the box office, but it quickly dropped at the box office, and it barely made back its budget of $25 million at $26.1 million. But I don't care, man. This is a fantastic movie. It's a really good psychological horror thriller. I mean, the visuals that are in this movie are genuinely still terrifying after all these years. The premise is very good. Tim Robbins does a fantastic job in here, playing this post-war. He was in Vietnam, and he keeps having these post-traumatic. He has PTSD kind of, and he has these strange, weird visions and hallucinations that still look terrifying even to this very day. Like, over 30 years later, these special effects still hold up very well. And it's a great movie overall. I think all the performances here are very good. You have Elizabeth Pena in here, Danny Aiello, Jason Alexander, a young Macaulay Culkin just before he was about to have his big success a couple weeks from now. But, yeah, this movie still holds up to this very day. It's very tense, very chilling, very horrifying. And it's written by Bruce Joel Rubin, who won the Oscar for writing Ghost. And it's just a very good movie all around. It's a very good psychological horror thriller that has these creepy visuals that just mess with your brain every time you finish watching it. It still holds up with you. It still holds up very well as time has gone on. It's a very good movie. I'd say definitely check it out if you haven't seen it already, because it's definitely worth a watch. Jacob's Ladder is a fantastic movie. And, maybe underrated is kind of an understatement, but I know that the movie was considered somewhat of a minor disappointment financially, but the movie's fantastic either way. If you want a good psychological horror thriller, Jacob's Ladder is definitely worth a watch. It's a lot better than Fatal Attraction, honestly, so that's my thoughts on Jacob's Ladder. Let's go to another movie that was seen as some might say it's an underrated movie, but I don't know. It's Prince's Graffiti Bridge.
George's place pulled 17,000. We made our usual 35, and the kid made $1,500. $1,500?
We have to make more money.
The king has arrived. Guess who the queen is?
The kid.
You and your crew can whoop ours. You take the club, lock keys and all.
The king.
How do you want to die?
Bad blood.
I want my money, but this joint is mine.
Hot Stellas. The story the way only Prince could tell it.
Honey boy.
With music. Graffiti Bridge.
Cook young brothers like you and spit out the seeds.
Prince. Morris Day. Jerome Benton. And the Time. Mavis Staples. George Clinton. Ingrid Chavez. Tevin Campbell. And Prince. Graffiti Bridge.
Yeah, just more proof that Purple Rain was that once-in-a-generation, lightning-in-a-bottle type of moment. Because when that came out in '84, that was like a monster success. It was like a global phenomenon. And every movie since then, Under the Cherry Moon and then Graffiti Bridge, just didn't work out really well. And you can see why in this movie. I mean, maybe there could have been something here, but it's just not written well. Like, it doesn't really have that staying power that Purple Rain does. So Purple Rain still holds up very much to this day. And maybe there are some Prince fans that still like the movies he did afterwards, but for me personally, it just didn't work. It's like this and Under the Cherry Moon really didn't work all that well, because I felt like they were trying too hard to copy the success of Purple Rain instead of trying something new, trying something different. And this is supposed to be a standalone sequel to Purple Rain, but I really couldn't tell the difference. I mean, honestly, this movie really... It's one of those ambitious failures where it's trying really hard, but it just doesn't know how to make it stand out alone. I mean, it tries way too hard to be the next Purple Rain, and it doesn't work all that well. Soundtrack's great. I mean, the soundtrack outsold the movie, honestly. It has more of a longevity than the actual movie does, but that doesn't really say much. I mean, yeah, Prince is a great rock musician, but this movie just proves that Purple Rain was that once-in-a-lifetime thing that he's not really going to ever... he could never really try to copy, but... So that's my thoughts on Graffiti Bridge. It's a movie that doesn't really work all around, despite a decent cast to it, but it just doesn't have that same spark and magnetism that something like Purple Rain did. I mean, like I said, some Prince fans might like it, but yeah, overall, I didn't really enjoy it all that much. So, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is...
America in 1962. It was a time of change. But in the North Country, everything stayed the same. Until the Harris family came to town.
Oh, she survived. She's slightly delicate.
Shirley MacLaine.
That's what I call a miracle.
And Terry Garr.
You'll find there's a lot of things that AMC calls miracles.
Waiting for the Light.
Waiting for the Light, which stars Shirley MacLaine, Terry Garr. It also has Clancy Brown and Vincent Schiavelli. But, I don't know. Judging from this trailer, there wasn't... Judging from the trailer, I don't think there really is a whole lot there story-wise to make this work. I think this is a movie that's just going solely off the performances of MacLaine and Garr, who have proven that they can be very good in good material. But when you look at this movie, there really isn't a whole lot there, in the trailer at least, that sounds promising. And the movie doesn't really have much of a cult following with it. So, I don't know, maybe it's one of those movies where it does have that little cult following, but I don't hear anybody ever talking about it all that much. I can't really comment on it because I haven't seen it, but that trailer doesn't really give me a whole lot of promise for it. So that's Waiting for the Light. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Roger Corman's Frankenstein Unbound.
30 years ago, Roger Corman began to explore the dark side of the American psyche. With movies like The Undead, The Pit and the Pendulum, and the original Little Shop of Horrors. Now, he feels the world is ready for the greatest horror story ever told, as it's never been told before. Frankenstein Unbound, starring John Hurt, Raul Julia, and Bridget Fonda, directed by Roger Corman.
Well, again, Roger Corman, this is a much bigger budgeted movie than I'm used to seeing from him, and from the looks of the trailer, it definitely looks like he's going for more of a standard movie, a standard bigger budgeted movie, because you've got a really good cast here: John Hurt, Raul Julia, Bridget Fonda, Jason Patric, Michael Hutchinson from InXS, and you have a cool concept here, doing a futuristic version of Frankenstein. I mean, it could be good. It could be really interesting. Like, this could be something where it's still very much a Roger Corman movie, but it's not like the cheesy, corny Roger Corman movies that we've gotten from the past. But I can't really comment on it because I haven't seen it. But I mean, the trailer and even the poster for this looks really promising too. The poster is just this eye that looks like it has all these different pieces coming into his eye. Like he has like different colored eye colors to him, and that's a cool little image there. So I don't know, maybe this actually might have something more than I would have ever gotten from it, judging from the title, but I don't know, I'm kind of curious to check it out. Frankenstein Unbound. Let me know if you've seen it, if it's any good. I'm kind of curious to check it out. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Robert Altman's Vincent and Theo.
£2.5 million last time, and £22.5 million, and 22
Today, it's priceless.
£500,000 for the last time.
But a century ago, Van Gogh's own brother could not sell his work.
You always have to go so far on principle, Vincent. I think if you do something, you should do it properly, don't you?
Two Van Goghs with one obsession.
You sell them, you don't paint them?
My brother is a painter. That's one of his there.
Each living for Vincent's art.
I'm coming to Paris. I really don't think you're ready. Oh, when do you think I'm ready? I don't know. Never, probably.
One devoted to it.
So aggravating. Working for people who only care about money. You see, I have my own tastes, and I have to be my own man.
The other consumed by it. Both prepared to sacrifice everything.
You'd better marry a rich wife.
For the creations that would outlive them.
That's the only hope for an artist.
To become the most valuable artworks of all time.
What are you actually doing to sell my paintings? You tell me what my job is, and don't you tell me there's a market for my work.
Critically acclaimed director Robert Altman brings to the screen an extraordinary exploration of two kinds of genius. One called Vincent, one called Theo. Both named Van Gogh. A portrait by Robert Altman.
Vincent and Theo was actually shot as a 4-hour miniseries, which is actually 200 minutes in length, but they actually released a version of it that's only about a little over 2 hours and 28 minutes. I take that back, 2 hours and 18 minutes. 138 minutes is 2 hours and 18 minutes. But either way you look at it, this is a pretty good movie. I mean, Tim Roth and Paul Rees, Paul R-H-Y-S. I'm just reading it from here, and for some reason I keep thinking it's either Rice or Reese, but I think it's Paul Rice. If it's not, please let me know. But yeah, this is a pretty good movie. It's a pretty good movie based on talking about the story of Vincent Van Gogh and his brother, and it looks pretty. It is a really good movie. I like the visual look of the film. I like the music. I like Roth and Reese's performances. The writing overall is very good, and I think it does keep your interest all the way through. It's definitely one of Robert Altman's more underrated movies. I don't know where it's marked in terms of his greatest movies. I don't think a lot of people really talk about it. I think when you think of Robert Altman, you think of stuff like, MASH, Popeye, Gosford Park. I know there's some other ones here. I'm trying to think for a second. McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Nashville. I've actually got the list here. I'm trying to see here because I know there's more. The Player, his next movie is a great Robert Altman movie. Shortcuts is a great movie. He's got a lot of great movies to his name to it. Even did Tanner 88, the miniseries where they had during the 1988 presidential election, they had a candidate played by Michael Murphy running for president along with Ronald Reagan and George Bush. George Bush and Dukakis. I'm getting all tangled up here, but yeah, like I said, Vincent and Theo, it's a very good movie. It's definitely one of his more underrated films as a director. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I'd say it's definitely worth it if you want to see some of the best of Robert Altman's work. So, that's Vincent and Theo. Let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is C'est la vie.
I'll hear you, my dear, at twilight time. Evening shadows
C'est la vie is, of course, a French phrase for that's life. But it's interesting that this has a different title in French. It's called La Boule des Pins. And I can't really comment on this because I haven't seen the movie, but it was hard to find footage for this, actually, so I just took a little bit from the trailer there. I mean, it does look like your typical French drama, but could be a good French drama. I mean, I haven't heard too many good things about. I haven't heard too much about it, I should say. But I mean, yeah, it could be good, but like I said, I haven't heard too much about it, so I can't really comment on it. But wanted to talk about it because it came out this weekend. So, c'est la vie.
Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
Child's Play 2. It's playtime. Again.
I'm not gonna lie. As a little kid, Chucky scared the living crap out of me. I mean, anytime I would see him on TV promoting in a promo for a movie, or even when he was on, even when it wasn't the actual actor on Saturday Night. There was one time he was on Saturday Night Live, and it wasn't Brad Dourif playing him. And I remember when he was on TV, and I just ran out of the room because I was scared of Chucky back then. But you know what? Nowadays, out of all the horror movie icons, if I saw Chucky sitting in a bar, I wouldn't mind having a drink with him. I just wouldn't say anything to get on his bad side, so he'd kill me within a couple minutes afterwards. But yeah, I always thought Chucky Chucky used to scare me when I was a little kid. But as I grew up, he did seem a lot more cooler than I remember when I was little. But that being said, I haven't seen any of the Child's Play movies, mostly because of my fear as a kid, and I just didn't have the interest to see any of the movies. But I like the character. I have seen stuff with the character involved, specifically the recent Chucky TV series on USA, which is actually pretty good. If you haven't seen it, I definitely say check it out. So that's my experience with Chucky. Like I said, I haven't seen the movies, but I did find some interesting things about this movie, because the first movie was released by MGM, and they actually bought that because the president of United Artists and MGM believed it had the potential for several sequels, and they needed a new horror franchise because, well, MGM had just put out Poltergeist 3, and that movie meant the Poltergeist series was pretty much dead. So basically needed a new series, and because that first movie was a success, they were actually going to do a sequel, but then United Artists dropped out at the last minute, and they decided to ban the studio from producing more horror films after that. And the interesting thing is that after MGM and United Artists didn't do the movie anymore, it said that some other studios were looking into it, including Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, Columbia, Fox, New Line Cinema, those people. But Disney was even looking to do Child's Play 2, and that was intriguing to me. More than likely, yes, it wouldn't have been a straight up Walt Disney movie. It would have probably went to Touchstone or Hollywood Pictures, but I don't know. That's kind of hilarious to see that Chucky almost became a Disney property, even though the original the remake of Child's Play, the one that came out a couple of years ago, did actually get originally released as a Disney Blu-ray, because if you saw the original Blu-ray release for it, it actually had the Disney Blu-ray format there. It had the Blu-ray DVD digital thing the way Disney does, and it was actually put out by Disney because I think some of the Fox movies that Disney some of the Fox properties actually made it onto Disney's Blu-ray sets at first, but then in recent years, when they've repackaged them, they've gone back over to Warner Brothers. But anyway, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting that Disney almost got Chucky. But, yeah, like I said, I haven't seen any of the Child's Play movies themselves. I've only seen a little bit of the TV series, which is actually not that bad. Like I said, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I think if you're a big Chucky fan, you'll definitely like that. I can't really say anything about the movies themselves because I haven't seen them, but they do look fun. They do look like a ton of fun, especially if you like those type of movies. And, that's all I got on this one. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen the movies, so I can't really comment on them. So that's my overall assessment of Chucky and the Child's Play movie. So there's that. So on to the next movie, and that is The Craze.
Who loves you, eh? That's right, Mummy loves you, you little monsters.
On October the 17th, 1934, in the East End of London, two extraordinary boys were born.
Mummy loves you more than anything.
Their names were Ronnie and Reggie. They were twins, and as they grew, they came to understand the power of fear. They were the Craze, and their story is terrifying, because it is true. Gary and Martin Kent star as the Craze. Bonded by love.
So basically, if you don't know the story of the Craze, they were kind of like a gang that in 1960s London, and believe it or not, they actually were alive when this movie came out. I think one of the brothers died about 5 years afterward, and then the other brother died about 10 years afterward. So these are about these two gangster twins who, like I said, they were part of an organized gang in 1960s London. This is actually not the first movie that they've made about these two brothers, because later on, about 25 years later, they would do Legion with Tom Hardy playing both of those roles. And I've seen Legion. I would say it's definitely a better movie if I had seen this one, but but I have to remember that this is actually coming straight from. No, actually, that's not true, because Legion and this were both coming from Britain, because Tom Hardy's British. But yeah, I've seen Legion. I think from the little bit I've seen from The Craze, I would say Legion's a better movie, largely because of Tom Hardy's dual performance in that movie. But this movie in particular could actually be pretty good. This actually does seem like a really interesting story that worked very well in Legion. I'm kind of curious to see how it works in this particular movie. Trying to see here if there's any good things about it. It's got some good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's got like an 82%. It was up for a couple of awards in Britain, the BAFTA award. So, I don't know. Maybe it could be good. I'm not going to rush out to see it at the moment, but it's definitely something I'll keep my eye on if I ever see it in the store or at a good price, or if it ever comes down in price. But that's my thoughts on The Craze. So let's go ahead and move on to probably the most notable movie of the entire weekend, because it eventually won Best Picture, and that is Kevin Costner's Dances with... So Dances with Wolves, at least to me, is kind of like Driving Miss Daisy the year before. Was it really the best picture of 1990? I don't think so. But that's not to say that Dances with Wolves is a bad movie. It's not. It's a very good movie. It's a well-made film. It does have a very generic kind of premise to it, but I think what carries it over is the performances. I think Kevin Costner does a very good job here playing John Dunbar. I think he also does a very good job with producing and directing this movie. He put a lot into this movie. There was a lot riding on this movie for a number of reasons, including Costner's name attached to it. But most importantly, at the time, Orion Pictures was not doing good. They actually had filed for bankruptcy up to that point, and so that when this movie won Best Picture, it kind of helped save their studio for a little bit, as did Silence of the Lambs the following year, which also had a lot of, which also was back when Orion was still in bankruptcy. But so it helped save their studio for a little bit, because this movie made a ton of money. It made over like $400 million worldwide, and of course, it helped to win the Best Picture that year, and along with some other Oscars. But yeah, like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's far from it. I think it's a very good, well-made film. I don't think it's the best of these type of movies. I think I've seen more movies with this similar type of premise to it done a whole lot better. But I do think the performances and the way the film is shot and the way that the film just looks in general, I think does make it stand out more. And it is important, and it is an important piece of film history, because it led to the rebirth of the Western. Because at the time, the Western wasn't doing so well, and then you have this, and then a couple years later, you would have Unforgiven, and then you would have Maverick a couple years later, and then so on and so forth. The Western came back in a big way, starting with this movie, and not every Western in the 90s worked, but this is one of the ones that really stood out the best and still holds up a lot even today. Like I said, it's still a very good movie. I don't think it should have been the best picture. I think a lot of people would agree something like Goodfellas would definitely be considered the best picture of the year, but I don't work for the Academy, and yeah, the Academy just, like I said, like I've said before, the Academy will just, they don't usually pick the best overall movie. They pick the movie that they like more than most people do. But like I said, Dances with Wolves isn't a terrible movie. It's actually a very good film, a well-made movie. I don't think it was the best picture of the year, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. I think a lot of people do enjoy it, but if you were to ask a lot of people if they would choose this over something like Goodfellas, I'd say Goodfellas probably would win out the most. But like I said, Dances with Wolves isn't terrible, so there's that. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is The Return of Superfly.
Eddie, we got Pop, man. We got Pop. I mean, it whacked everybody.
Eddie!
The heat is on, and Mr. Cool is back. Superfly's back.
State your purpose.
I'm the meter man. Back for revenge.
You know who killed Eddie? Now they're trying to kill me. I want you to help me get him.
In a world that's meaner.
Are you looking to get back into the life?
No, just trying to survive. Who did it?
And deadlier than ever before.
Looks like you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I want to meet your people in the organization.
Everything's different now. We make the crack and distribute it. There's setups just like this all over the city.
And though the rules have changed,
it's a lot of killing.
Yo, homeboy, need a light?
It's rough.
Joey, I want this business taken care of.
The stakes are still the same.
Where's Priest? It was you that was supposed to be hitting the apartment.
I'm going to do these creeps my way.
You're not Priest, man. You ain't too smart, are you? You're trying to get us all killed.
The winners live.
Sure to blow?
Like the space shuttle.
And the losers die.
No nookie tonight, Joey.
Nathan Purdue, Sam Jackson. The Return of Superfly, rated R.
Well, I'll give it this. It looks a lot better than the 2018 Superfly movie ever did. I mean, that movie was just terrible. I hated that movie. But I don't know. I mean, to me, Superfly was something that I don't think can work in a modern day setting. And this movie, I think, definitely from that little bit there shows why this idea probably works better only in the 70s. But they made it, and again, it just shows you why I think this idea works better in the 70s, because the original Superfly works as a blaxploitation movie, and it fits the time period better, and I think that's tough to do, to try to adapt it for a modern setting. I mean, there are some times when you can make that work, like I think the Shaft remake that they did in 2000 with Sam Jackson was a lot better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. I even like the 2019 one they did, which is more of like a comedy, and kind of fit more in a tone to what the original Superfly was, not Superfly, Shaft was. But yeah, when I look at the trailer for this, it looks just like a generic cop movie. I mean, it doesn't really look like anything that makes it stand out to the original Superfly, or even has anything that's really connected to it. I guess the only major thing about this movie is that it has Samuel L. Jackson in there in one of his earliest film roles. But, yeah, other than that, though, the idea of bringing Superfly into a modern setting, doing like a traditional 90s style crime drama with the character of Superfly, it just doesn't work. It's an idea that I don't think is very well done. I don't think it's an idea that really succeeded as well as I think they wanted it to. And, yeah, like, judging from this trailer alone, I really couldn't even tell that it was a movie based off of Superfly until the very end of the trailer where they showed the Superfly title on there. I mean, it just looks so generic as a crime drama, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, at least from that trailer. But so that's my thoughts on The Return of Superfly.
Where are you going? We're gonna miss the plane!
When the McAllister family left on their Christmas vacation,
Did we miss the plane? No, you just made it.
they forgot one small thing.
Have yourself.
A terrible feeling.
Did you lock up?
Let yourself be light.
Do we set the timers on the lights?
Mm-hmm. What else could we be forgetting?
Our troubles will be ours.
Kevin!
Home
Alone.
Police in the northern suburbs are on the lookout for a pair of burglars who are calling themselves the Wet Bandits.
We know that you're in there.
It's Santa Claus and his elf.
Get off my property.
This is my house. I have to defend it.
Where's your mother?
My mom's in the car.
Where's your father?
He's at work.
What about your brothers and sisters?
I'm an only child.
Where do you live?
Can't tell you that.
Why not?
Because you're a stranger.
He's a kid. I mean, what can a kid do to us?
Kids are stupid. I know I was.
You still are, Marv.
This is it.
I don't care if I have to get out on your runway and hitchhike. I am going to get home to my son.
Yes!
Where are you, you little creep?
I'm gonna kill that kid!
Why did you take your shoes off?
Why are you dressed like a chicken?
Gus Polinski, polka king of the Midwest. If you have to get to Chicago, we'll gladly drive you.
Hey, guys.
Yesterday, he was just a kid. But tonight, he's a home security system.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
From John Hughes.
You know, I got a feeling this is going to be your best Christmas ever.
A family comedy without the family. Home Alone.
Are you here all alone?
I'm 8 years old. You think I'd be here alone? I don't think so.
Directed by Chris Columbus, coming November 16th.
Of course, it was Home Alone. Home Alone came out this weekend on November 16th. And needless to say, it made a pretty penny at the box office. Not only did it become a hit the first weekend, but it was one of the biggest hits of all time, pretty much, because it was the biggest. It ended up becoming the biggest comedy of all time, surpassing Ghostbusters, and it wouldn't be surpassed again until Hangover Part 2 came out 21 years later. But not only that, the movie, which was intended solely as a Christmas movie, it played way past Christmas. I think it didn't get out of the top spot until February or March of '91. It was there for a long time, and people would just keep coming back to see it. It had like a Titanic vibe, where it was just like it kept being the #1 movie for several weeks. No matter what new movie came out, no matter what was coming out, expanding out the theaters, it would always be at the top spot. And people would go to see it so many times that by the end of its run, I think it was in theaters, in many theaters, until midsummer of '91. I mean, it was a big, big hit at the time. And of course, it also inspired a lot of the comedies that we would get in the '90s. It was a big success for John Hughes, probably the last really big success he had as a filmmaker, even though he would have successes afterwards. But this was his biggest success to date. And of course, this is Chris Columbus' first real big hit, and also launched the career of Macaulay Culkin. You can kind of say it launched the careers for several actors in here. I mean, in terms of successes, like Joe Pesci was a pre-established actor, but this is one of his biggest successes. So was Daniel Stern, John Hurt, Catherine O'Hara. So many names, so many people to talk about in this, and the movie still holds up to this very day. I mean, I don't think I really need to delve too much into Home Alone, largely because there really is not that much more to say that hasn't been said already. It's a classic movie for a number of reasons, and I still believe it's a movie that really honestly could have worked only back in the 90s, because, I mean, when you look at what Home Alone basically is, it's a kid who's at home alone, there's no internet, the phones are mostly out until Christmas time, so there's no real way for the family to connect. There's no way to connect them through, like, the technology we have now. So it'd be really hard to make this movie nowadays. Even though they did try last year with Home Sweet Home Alone, which was, I want to say, it was okay, but I liked it. It was certainly better than anything after Home Alone 2. I mean, I know a lot of people hated it, but I liked it better than anything after Home Alone 2, because Home Alone 3 is a mess of a movie. And we don't talk about the 2 direct-to-video sequels, but yeah, like, Home Alone was really one of those lightning-in-a-bottle movies that really took off much better than I think anybody really expected it to. I think this was, it's interesting when you look back at the history of the making of this movie. This was originally a Warner Brothers movie, and actually started filming as a Warner Brothers movie, but they got out of it at the last minute. Fox came in and picked it up, and then the rest is history after that. I mean, and I mean, I really don't have to go into it review-wise, because I think everybody has a pretty good idea of how they feel about this movie. Overall, it's a classic movie. It's a classic movie all around. It's very funny. It finds a good balance between the funny moments and the more serious moments, where Macaulay Culkin, of course, has to realize that he needs to grow, that he needs to mature a little bit as the movie goes along, and he misses his family, even though it says at the beginning that he'd rather have no family whatsoever and go on a vacation on his be by himself. I mean, going on vacation would be the second one, but you get the idea. You get the idea that I'm trying to get through here. But like I said, there really is not a whole lot more I can add to this that hasn't already been said already. I've done numerous blogs talking about how much this is a classic movie. Many people have already talked about how this is a great film. It's really hard to top this movie. This is a great movie all around. One of John Hughes' best movies. One of Chris Columbus' best movies. Of course, Macaulay Culkin's career took a huge jump after this. Turned him into a superstar. Need I say more? Need I really say more about this movie? It's a classic film. It's always going to be one I'm going to watch every holiday multiple times. It's the one movie I've watched multiple times, especially in the last few years, because it's been playing on Freeform. I think last year it was on every other day during the holiday season, and then I watched it more times than the times I didn't watch it. I mean, that's how much I love this movie so much. I could watch this movie so many times and never get tired of it whatsoever. It's a great movie, fantastic film. I don't really need to add any more to this. Home Alone, classic movie, and one of the biggest movie hits of all time. I mean, it really was a phenomenon at the time that's really hard to really top nowadays. I mean, you can't really find this kind of success anymore, quite honestly. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about Home Alone. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the next movie, which, judging by what this was, I'm pretty sure that this was supposed to be the big hit of the weekend, and then it just, not so much. It's Sylvester Stallone in Rocky V.
From 1,000,000 to 1 shot, he became a true champion of the world. Now, the glory.
Because of the continuous violent blows to the head, the effects are irreversible.
The crowds.
My husband is retired. He has nothing more to prove.
And the money are gone.
You lost millions.
Look, I still got my place in the old neighborhood. His title is in the hands of a new champion.
He might win a few fights, but he's no Rocky Balboa.
Controlled by an unscrupulous promoter.
This is your medical report. It's not so good, but we can work around it.
All that's left is his family.
We've been down before. I'll get it all back.
His heart.
I gotta fight, okay? I got problems, I gotta fight.
And a dream. A dream to get it all back.
This is a tremendous opportunity.
Opportunity for who? For you to make money for him to be disabled?
You know he can't carry Balboa's guns.
As long as they got Balboa on the brain, he'll always be champ.
Got to challenge that man to fight. And if he refuses, then you gotta insult him. You gotta dog him. You gotta humiliate him. You gotta do whatever you got to do to get him into that ring. They tell me you're a piece of garbage, you know that?
No! That's it!
You told him I'd fight anywhere, anytime.
In the ring. Tommy Gunn only fights in the ring.
My ring's outside.
Yeah, let's do it.
Come on, Tommy, knock me out.
So yeah, who would have guessed that this movie was so bad that the previous movie with the talking robot and Rocky going to Russia to fight Dolph Lundgren would be the better movie out of this? Because wow, this was a major miscalculation. I mean, I got what Sylvester Stallone was trying to do. He was trying to take it back to the days of the original Rocky, but really, this movie just failed on so many levels that it just didn't really work out as well as I think they wanted it to. But when you have a movie where the main bad guy of the movie isn't really that threatening whatsoever, and most of it just takes place in the back alleys of Philadelphia. I mean, it just doesn't work. The movie just really is a cluster. It just doesn't make any sense. It has a lot of continuity errors to it. The medical inaccuracies in this movie really just don't work at all. I think that it's because I think Sylvester Stallone wanted to have a darker Rocky movie, and that's why he had the idea of and what you see it in the trailer where Rocky has like brain damage, kind of, but the movie doesn't really allow for that to do that. I think MGM wanted to make this a safe and marketable movie for reasons that are beyond me. And really, if you look at the Creed movies, I think did a better job of going a little bit darker than the previous Rocky movies. Maybe not in full, but a lot of the ideas I think Stallone wanted to put in Rocky V are definitely seen in movies like the Creed movies, or even something like Rocky Balboa in a way, which we'll get to that one when we get to that one when that comes out in 2006. But you get the idea. You get the idea that this movie really fell apart largely because of creative differences, a bad script, really bad characters, really bad continuity and medical errors. And it just didn't seem like there was really that much of a need this time around. Like in Rocky IV, it was silly, it was over the top, but at least it had a story you can get invested in. There's nothing here you can get invested in at all. It just feels like a parody of a Rocky movie, honestly, when you really look at it overall. So, yeah, so the Rocky franchise came to an end for a brief period of time with this, and then they kind of reestablished it again with Rocky Balboa, but that was further down the road. And needless to say, this movie just ends the series on a really bad note. So, that's Rocky V. Now let's go ahead and move on to a much better sequel that got thrashed by audiences. Nobody went to go see it, unfortunately, but it's another underrated Disney classic, and that is The Rescuers Down Under.
Walt Disney Pictures presents its all-new 29th full-length animated motion picture. Australia. Mysterious. Untamed. And for a young boy named Cody and his magnificent golden eagle, it was a world of adventure and discovery.
Fire!
Until they met the villain McLeach.
That bird's gonna make me rich.
An evil trapper who threatens to separate them forever.
It's time you learned how to fish for crocodiles.
But though hope is running out, a message is on the way. To the Rescue Aid Society.
There has been a kidnapping in Australia.
And two little heroes, Bernard and Bianca, are flying in.
Hey, let's go for it!
It's the Rescuers in the most dangerous mission ever.
We'll never make it! Cinch up your seatbelt, mates.
Now, they're joining forces with their new friend Jake and his army of misguided mates.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Ah, Frank, give it a rest.
They're flying into action, riding into danger.
Missed.
In the most breathtaking rescue mission ever.
Hey, who killed the music?
Oops.
Yeah!
This holiday season, join Bernard, Bianca, Jake, and
Wilbur!
in an adventure above the ordinary in the land down under. Walt Disney Pictures' The Rescuers Down Under.
Throw another shrimp in a barbie, sports fans. Here we come!
And along with the Rescuers, it's Mickey Mouse and Mickey Mouse.
Which one is which?
In the classic tale of the wealthy prince and the poor peasant who decided to switch places.
If my friends could see me now.
He's an imposter.
I'm the prince.
If they don't get
This holiday season, join Donald Duck, Goofy, Pluto, and Mickey Mouse in his first new big screen appearance in almost 10 years. Walt Disney Pictures' The Prince and the Pauper and The Rescuers Down Under, playing together at theaters everywhere.
I mean, talk about a great double feature that is. You get a good Rescuers sequel, and before that, you get a really good Mickey Mouse short in The Prince and the Pauper, which they say it's 10 years since Mickey made his appearance on the big screen in a short film, but I mean, technically, Mickey's Christmas Carol did come out in '83, so really it was about 7 years, but I mean, they're close enough. 10 years, I mean, you round that up, it's pretty much 10 years, but yeah, Prince and the Pauper, I'll briefly talk about that one because that's a pretty good short. It's a pretty good retelling of the story of the Prince and the Pauper. Of course, you have Mickey Mouse and the Prince, they switch lives. The Prince goes on to live with the peasants, and Mickey the peasant gets to live his life as a prince. One of the guards, played by Pete, wants to kill the Prince and take over the kingdom, and pretty much the story of the Prince and the Pauper, pretty much. And like with Mickey's Christmas Carol, they do a pretty good job with it. They do a good job keeping the story short. It's only a 22-minute short, and it's a really good animated short. The animation in that is incredible. It still holds up to this very day. It does a good job of keeping the pacing very, very well, despite the time period. It mixes the comedy and some little bits of drama in there, too, that are actually very good. The voice work is very well done. You got Wayne Allwine back as the voice of Mickey Mouse and the Prince. And he actually does a pretty good job in both roles. Like, I didn't think he could pull off a British kind of accent, but he does in this short playing the Prince, and he does a very good job with it. And it's an overall great short. I would have liked to see this double feature on a big screen, especially with this intermission segment that they had in here, which I thought was pretty interesting. I'll show you that right now.
I have a brief announcement to make. Lights, please. Intermission. We will now pause for a brief 10-minute, 10-second intermission. Ample time to stretch your legs and arrive safely back in your seats with your Texas barbecue ribs, chocolate bunnies, and tiny little sugar-covered sticky gooey things. Come back here and erase this at once.
What he means is we're going to have a 10-minute intermission followed by the Rescuers Down Under. Oh, boy. Bye.
All I do is try to instill a little knowledge into fledgling boys. And what do I get in response to this? This outrage! Lights, please. Begin countdown. Roll the credits.
So yeah, you basically got a 10-minute intermission to go get your popcorn, go to the bathroom, do whatever you needed to do before the Rescuers Down Under starts, and then the movie would begin. And Rescuers, I think, was about, let me see here. Yeah, Rescuers was close to about an hour and a half, so basically you had a 2-hour package here. And I always think back to when Coco had the Frozen Christmas short that they had at the beginning of that movie, which was basically the Christmas special that you see on TV every year. And I think the reason why that didn't work out as well is because that Frozen short, you have the Frozen short, which is about a half hour, and then you have Coco, which is about a 2-hour movie. So you're sitting there for 2.5 hours. You don't get that little intermission in between like you do with this. And I think people were really upset at that, even though I thought both of them worked very fine. I don't think they really should have been plastered together like that, especially with a movie that's over 2.5 hours. With a movie that's over 2 hours long. With this, I think it works better, even with that little 10-minute thing. I am kind of curious of what they did between the credits and then the actual movie. I really think that they probably could have put maybe another short in there, or I think they may have had like some kind of trivia thing. I know they had that when the Toy Story double feature came out in 3D about 10 plus years ago. But that was an interesting little bit of footage I found on YouTube. But as far as Rescuers Down Under goes, yeah, it's a great movie. It's a fantastic, very underrated Disney movie. What's interesting about this movie is that it's the first time they fully used the computer animation production system, the CAP system, which basically digitizes all the ink and painting and the animation drawings, and it would allow for these films to come out faster and look much better, look much crisper. And you can definitely see that, especially in the early scenes of this movie, where you have the kid and his gold eagle flying up in the air. The scenes of those flying scenes still hold up to this very day. This movie is over 30 years old, and those scenes still hold up to this very day with the music by Bruce Broughton. It's great to watch. And like, you have a great villain here, George C. Scott playing the bad guy. You've got Bob Newhart and Ava Gabor returning as Bernard and Bianca. You got John Candy playing Wilbur in this. He's very good in this. And the movie is just a ton of fun. It's a very good movie. A well-made film, nicely animated, great story, great villain, great characters, just a fun, enjoyable adventure. And it's a shame that nobody went to see it. And I remember watching the Waking Sleeping Beauty documentary where they talked about how Jeffrey Katzenberg said that they pulled the marketing after the first weekend because the movie didn't do well. And so this movie barely made any money because most of the advertising was already gone after the first weekend. And this was before the Thanksgiving Christmas rush came into play. So Jeffrey Katzenberg basically took a risk by pulling all the advertising. He didn't even wait to see if this movie would play well over the holidays. And the movie, I think, was out of theaters by the time Christmas came around, which is a shame because people really missed out on another great Disney movie in 1990. There was this and then DuckTales the movie, which we talked about earlier. They missed out on some great movies here, and The Rescuers Down Under is a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, which I don't know who would, but if you haven't seen The Rescuers, who wouldn't have, but if you haven't seen Rescuers Down Under, please go watch it. It's a very good movie that severely got thrashed by the box office, but it's more than worth seeing in theaters. I'm getting confused here. It's more than worth seeing. You could definitely find it on the Disney Plus. Please seek it out. It's a fantastic movie. I can't recommend that movie enough. Rescuers Down Under. So, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, which is the only one that I have no real recollection about. It's called Eating, though.
Well, you know how I did it. When I stopped those drugs, it was just like so traumatic that I got on my knees and I told God that I'll do anything if he doesn't strike me fat.
So yeah, I don't really know too much about this movie, but I will tell you the plot because I have Wikipedia right here and I'll tell you about it. Featuring an all-female cast, the film is set entirely and around a spacious home in Los Angeles. Helene is a woman who is turning 40 years old, and her friends, including French filmmaker Martine, houseguest Sophie, and Lydia, throw a party, but also there is Kate, a friend turning 30, and Sadie, a Hollywood film agent turning 50. So all of Helene, Kate, and Sadie's friends arrive for the triple birthday party, where Martine films the events with her movie camera, as well as the shocking secrets revealed behind her mother Whitney and younger sister Nancy, who confide in the interviews about their obsessions with food and their roles in life. So it sounds like it's kind of a mockumentary type of film, but like I said, I really don't know too much about this. Obviously, I haven't seen it, but I mean, it's an interesting concept. It does sound like an interesting concept, just the way that this is presented, but judging by the fact that I have not heard too much about this movie since this came out, nobody really ever talks about it, and I'm going to assume that it didn't really meet up with the expectations that a lot of people had for it. But, again, who knows? Maybe it has this cult following that I'm aware of, but no, as far as I know, there isn't, but that's just what I saw from this little trailer here. I know I showed a little bit there, but there's definitely more to it, and it is pretty much just everybody talking and eating and doing stuff and talking about life and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, like I said, I can't really comment on it. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really comment on it. So that's Eating for you.
Introducing Matt, Peter, and Jack. We are rabbit three guys doing a marriage rap. If you're just a little lady and you need your sweet, don't want to hear no job talking about something to eat. Break down.
Touchstone Pictures presents Tom Selleck.
We are building an office for 12,000 people. You can't put a bathroom on every other floor. But what if they don't go before they come to work?
Steve Guttenberg.
What are you doing in there?
We're doing the laundry.
I'm hungry. Hi.
And Ted Danson.
I loved your last commercial.
The laxative one?
You were hysterical.
You know, a lot of people say that when they watch it, that they really believe that I was constipated.
We all live together.
Okay.
They're a modern family.
While we think of ourselves as progressive, this is a most unique family environment.
What a crock.
Hey, where did you hear that expression?
What a crock. What'd they do?
With some old-fashioned ideas.
How come none of you are married?
If Mary and I hadn't moved in here, we'd be in very different places by now.
We'd be married. We'd be divorced. You saved us a fortune.
And a few new problems.
Sylvia, no more milk.
I'm getting married.
Don't overreact. I can get some milk. Jack, I think she's serious. Who is he? Edward.
Yes.
Hello, gorgeous.
Hello, darling.
Where are you going to live?
London.
Will you miss me?
I miss you. Mary, I love you. Whenever you need us, you just close your eyes real tight, you look for us, and we'll be right there with you.
Now, they're going to England.
Wow. Look at this place.
So huge.
Not so splendid as your mighty erections, I imagine.
And they'll stop at nothing. How about you? You with us?
Yes.
To keep the right woman
I love you. Oh, very, very much.
from marrying the wrong man.
I don't like the guy.
Go to your room.
He's not the right father for Mary.
Then don't tell her that. She's not going to listen to me till I prove the guy's a fraud.
We gotta stall the wedding till Peter gets back.
I'm starting a wave.
They're three dads
Hang on.
going overseas, over land,
Noise.
and undercover
What are you doing in my closet?
to keep their family together.
I made it.
I love your mom. Oh, I wish they had a category like this on Jeopardy. I'd clean them.
Touchstone Pictures presents Tom Selleck,
Kiss me!
Steve Guttenberg,
I've been thinking about us a lot lately.
there, and Ted Danson.
Where's Zach?
He's making a move.
Hey, hello. You're on.
Three men and a little lady.
You look very beautiful. I look like a dork.
Did that trailer need to be as long as it was? That was nearly 3 minutes worth of footage there that they had to show off for this movie. And as you know, with most comedy sequels, most of them don't usually end up being all that good. Not that they're bad, not that they're all bad, it's just that most of the sequels that come out, for comedies at least, they're just only half as good as the original film most of the time. And part of the problem is that they always regress the characters back down to where they were in the first movie, and they don't really do anything new and exciting with the characters in the sequel than they do in the first movie. They're just basically repeating the same premise of the first movie over again. And sadly, that's what you kind of get with Three Men and a Little Lady. Although there are a little few things here and there that actually do make it kind of enjoyable. Like I like the performance by the little girl in this movie, whose name is not in my head right now. Give me 1 second. I just had the name and I lost it again. Robin Weissman is the name. I'm thinking of somebody else on here, but Robin Weissman is the name of the little girl in this movie, and I thought she did alright in here. And I also thought, surprisingly, Fiona Shaw as Miss Lomax, who actually falls in love with Tom Selleck's character, she was actually really funny in this movie. A lot funnier than I thought she was going to... thought this movie had any right to be. She was actually a fun character in the movie, and I kind of wish they did more with her. But, at least for other movies, I mean. But, I mean, yeah, for the most part, the movie isn't bad. It is trying, but it really does fall into the similar kind of trap that most sequels do. They try to repeat a lot of stuff from the first movie, and it just doesn't work out as well. There are times when they try a little too hard to modernize it for the audience of today. There's the scene in the trailer where you see Tom Selleck, Steve Guttenberg, and Ted Danson rapping, and it's just like, really? We're doing this? And it's just like... It's unfortunate. I mean, the first movie was actually a really solid movie overall, but for the most part, this one here is just, it's just okay. It's not one I'd rather watch over and over again, but it could have been a whole lot better. I kind of wish they did a little bit more to make this one a little bit better than the first movie, but I guess I can say that it's not a bad movie. It's just not as good of a movie as the first movie was. It's your typical comedy sequel, pretty much. Like, it's not going to be as good as the first movie, but you can at least say that it's okay. It's better than what you would expect from most comedy sequels, but it's nothing really special. I'm glad I saw it, but it's not one I'm going to pop in again anytime soon, unless I really, really want to watch it again, which is very unlikely to happen. So that's my thoughts on 3 Men and a Little Lady, and coincidentally, it's about as long as that trailer was. We're coming up on the 3-minute mark on that, so let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, the sequel, the far superior sequel, I should say, at least in my opinion, and that was Predator 2.
Los Angeles, 1997. It's the hottest summer on record. Pollution is choking the city. The gangs control the streets.
It has not been a nice day.
As bad as things are, they're about to get worse. Much worse.
Whoever killed him is gonna pay. I will finish it.
It
That's almost no weight.
But it cuts like steel.
Incredible.
Whoever did this took out 4 men armed with machine guns by hand.
You don't know what you're dealing with. Otherworld life forms, drawn by heat and conflict. He's on safari. Lions. Tigers. The bears. Oh my.
Danny Glover, Gary Busey, Ruben Blades, Maria Conchita Alonso, Bill Paxton. Predator 2. He's in town with a few days to kill this Thanksgiving.
So yeah, I really do like Predator 2. It's no aliens. It doesn't top the first movie by any means necessary, but I think it's a lot funner than a lot of people give it credit for. It's a good time to watch. It's fun watching the Predator going into Los Angeles in 1997 and just causing all this havoc. And for the most part, I like the Predator movies a lot. I like the first movie. I like this one a lot. I like the one that Robert Rodriguez produced, Predators. The only one I really didn't like was The Predator with Shane Black, who directed and wrote that one, which was really a big disappointment. And I guess the Alien vs. Predator movies also have to count in there, too. I am curious to see what they'll do with this new prequel coming up, Prey, in August. But, yeah, I really like Predator 2 a lot. I like what they did. I like the idea that they brought this creature into a city and just let him cause all this chaos there. And you've got these great characters here. Danny Glover, Gary Busey, Robert Davi, Bill Paxton, Ruben Blades, Maria Conchita Alonso. And I also like that they do acknowledge that both the Alien and the Predator could exist in this world. I like what they were setting up at the end, where Danny Glover goes inside the thing and finds the alien heads in there, and it does really experiment with the idea that both the Alien and the Predator could exist in this world. And if we had gotten a much better film with that, based off of that logic, it would have been really great. But yeah, it's definitely nowhere near as good as the first movie. But it is a ton of fun. I really like it a lot more than I think a lot of people give it credit for. I think the biggest mistake was opening it up on Thanksgiving weekend, because really, when you open a movie like this on Thanksgiving or Christmas, a holiday where everybody wants to come to the movies, it's usually the family films that do a whole lot better. When you have something like this, yeah, chances are it's not going to do well at all. And this, unfortunately, was not a big hit at the box office whatsoever. But it has grown a following over time, and I'm glad to see that, because, like I said, I really do like this movie a whole lot. I know a lot of people still don't have a real love for this, but I still really enjoy it a lot. If you haven't seen Predator 2, really go into it knowing that you're going to have, you are going to see at least a better sequel than I think a lot of people will give it credit for. I had a good time with it. I think you will too. So that's my thoughts on Predator 2. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is The Nutcracker Prince.
This holiday season, join us as the classic tale of the Nutcracker Prince comes to life.
Where did you come from?
A magical story of adventure. Of romance.
Oh, dear Nutcracker.
Of bravery.
Don't worry, Mistress Clara.
And a really mean mouse.
Come out and meet your fate, Prince of the Dolls!
Quickly, the Mouse King's after you.
Charge!
The Nutcracker Prince. The tale of a young prince's battle against evil.
The spell will be broken if he slays the Mouse King.
And wins the hand of a fair young maiden.
And the courage it took to save Clara and the Kingdom of Toys. Featuring the voices of Kiefer Sutherland.
Stay. Be my princess.
Megan Follows.
This is like a wonderful dream come true.
Phyllis Diller. And Peter O'Toole.
I think I'm going to like being a prince.
The Nutcracker Prince, the season's classic adventure for all the family.
Well, if Hollywood has taught us anything over the last couple of decades, it's that it will never be able to make a good Nutcracker movie without it looking absolutely horrible or nightmarish or just plain awful, because, yeah, if you've seen how the Nutcracker movies have gone over the last couple of decades, not really a whole lot of them have been any good, and this is another example of it. I mean, from the looks of it at first, it looks like you might have some good animation to it, but even in this movie, they managed to screw it up by having, like, a completely different animation structure in the middle of the movie, which makes no sense whatsoever for a story like this. And it's just, it's a mess of a movie. It really is a mess of a film. It's way too loud. The story doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The casting of all these celebrity voice talents, Kiefer Sutherland, Phyllis Diller, Peter O'Toole, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and it just doesn't work. It's a movie that really just shows how nobody can really make a good Nutcracker movie without it just falling apart at the seams almost immediately. Because we had this, we had the Nutcracker in the Four Realms, we had the 2010 movie with the nightmarish rat things that also found a way to bring in Nazism to it, which is just, I mean, how hard is it to make a movie about this and make it good? I mean, why is that so hard to do? It's just, it makes no sense whatsoever why nobody can do it right, but sadly that's where it is right now, and I really don't think nobody will ever make a good Nutcracker movie, really, really ever, because we've seen everybody try to do it, and it fails miserably almost immediately. And this is another one of those examples. The Nutcracker Prince is a movie that Warner Brothers thought they were going to get on the Disney bandwagon, make an animated movie, hopefully make money. And it did anything but that, unfortunately. So yeah, that's the Nutcracker Prince. And just like I said, it completely tells you that we can't make a good Nutcracker movie nowadays. Someday we will, but I don't know when that's going to be. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Robot Jox.
It's a new age of combat.
Human beings, genetically engineered to be the best fighters in history.
Two champions.
It isn't over until someone wins.
At war with each other.
Killer! I have already killed you.
Two invincible men.
Let's finish it, Alexander, here and now.
The ultimate killing machines.
I'm gonna get in this thing, and I'm gonna kick your...
Robot Jox.
I don't know if they actually did it, but it would not surprise me whatsoever if Power Rangers took a lot from this, because you could definitely see a lot of inspiration for the Power Rangers in this. But Robot Jox, it's one of those typical movies where it doesn't really get a whole lot of press at first. Whatever people that do see the film, it ends up not doing so well critically or financially, but it has this cult following, and I can see why. This looks like a ton of fun, quite honestly. This looks like a good, fun, silly, over-the-top action movie, and I like the robot designs. I like how over-the-top everybody is. I kind of want to see this movie. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but this trailer really does make me want to see it. I do see like the inspirations for like Power Rangers and all that kind of stuff, and I mean, yeah, it looks like a ton of fun. It's one that I kind of want to check out at some point. That's really all I gotta say about it, because I haven't really seen it. So, yeah, Robot Jox definitely something I might want to check out one day. So, on to the next movie. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward in Mr. and Mrs. Bridge.
Proudly presents Paul Newman and Academy Award nominee Joanne Woodward in a film that's been called this year's Driving Miss Daisy.
The radio says that the tornado's approaching the country club district at 75 miles an hour.
Oh.
Mr. and Mrs. Bridge.
This is another one of those Merchant Ivory movies. You basically follow Mr. Bridge, Paul Newman, who plays a lawyer who resists his children's rebellion against the conservative values he holds dear, and Mrs. Bridge, played by Joanne Woodward, labors to maintain a Pollyanna view of the world against her husband's emotional distance and her child's eagerness to adopt a worldview more modern than her own. I literally just read that from the Wikipedia page because this is another one I haven't seen before. I mean, I've not really seen a lot of Merchant Ivory movies. I have seen a couple of them, but not a whole lot of them. This is one of those ones that I haven't seen, but, you know, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward don't usually pick really bad scripts, and from what I see here, it doesn't look too bad. But like I said, I can't really comment on it too much, largely because it's just I haven't seen it. But from what I'm seeing here, it doesn't look too bad. It might be something I might check out one day, but I'm not going to completely rush out to go check it out. So yeah, quick one on Mr. and Mrs. Bridge. Now let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, which is Hidden Agenda.
He was not involved with terrorists. He was too smart to be manipulated.
This man Sullivan was no run-of-the-mill person you could just blow away. He was an American lawyer with an international reputation.
Am I wrong, or is it illegal to kill people and try to steal a country?
An American has been murdered in Northern Ireland.
Police said the car failed to stop at a roadblock outside Dungannon.
And a high-ranking British inspector has been assigned to the case.
We have the men that did the shooting. Our job's done.
Are you willing to settle for that?
The truth has been buried.
I want that tape.
What tape?
The tape they found on Sullivan's body.
There was no tape, sir.
The investigation has been obstructed.
Consequently, I was put under close surveillance. Mail was opened. Phones were tapped.
But the real crime is the cover-up.
Get down! There was no roadblock. No witnesses were questioned. The weapon found in the car had no fingerprints. Forensics showed that the shot that killed Sullivan was fired at a distance of 2 meters.
I saw it happen. It was them.
They want this thing buried. If necessary, they will bury you alongside it. It's an intelligence matter outside your jurisdiction.
I don't ask your cooperation. I command it.
Get out of Belfast. You're in danger here.
This is Paradox. Subjects leaving location. Pressure came from the CIA to get rid of the Labour government.
Echo 1 to control. We're on the Dublin Road.
You're saying that Thatcher was involved in this?
It couldn't happen. It did.
Hemdale Film Corporation presents Frances McDormand, Brian Cox, Brad Dourif, Hidden Agenda.
Again, one that I haven't seen before, but I have to admit, this actually does look pretty promising, especially from the people they have in here. Frances McDormand, Brian Cox, Brad Dourif. It looks like a good political thriller. I'm actually kind of surprised that it hasn't been remade yet, because this looks like a movie that probably would have been remade for an American audience down the line, but it hasn't really done so yet. But who knows? Maybe in a couple of years from now it actually will be. But I mean, it looks promising enough. It actually looks pretty honest about the things that they're trying to talk about here. It looks like a smart political thriller, so maybe one day I'll definitely check it out. So that's all I gotta say on it right now, because I haven't really seen it, but the trailer does show a lot of promise to it. Hidden Agenda.
Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Paul Sheldon, America's best-selling author, just met Annie Wilkes, his #1 fan. Paul Sheldon used to write for a living. Now, he's writing to stay alive.
You know, it says an awful lot when Stephen King actually likes your adaptation of one of his books. He's been notoriously known for not liking a lot of his versions of his different books that have come to life either on the big screen or on TV, but he really likes this one. This is apparently one of his top 10 favorite film adaptations, and I mean, honestly, you can kind of see why. It's a really damn good movie overall. I mean, it works solely because of both Kathy Bates and James Caan. They work very well in this movie. Bates, in particular, really stands out here. She's given this great performance and, of course, won her an Academy Award for Best Actress. And, James Caan's really good in the movie, too. I like that the movie is very brutal. It doesn't pull any punches. It just shows you straight up how dangerous this woman is to this author. And you gotta give it to Rob Reiner. I didn't think he had it in him to do a movie of this caliber, but lo and behold, he did. And, honestly, I think these two work so well. Like, I'm looking at some of these other names that they were looking at to get to play these characters. They apparently went to William Hurt twice. Kevin Kline, Michael Douglas, Harrison Ford, Dustin Hoffman, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Richard Dreyfuss, Gene Hackman, Robert Redford, Warren Beatty. They all turned it down, and honestly, it probably works for the best, because I think James Caan really fit that role very well, especially, and Kathy Bates. I don't think anybody else could have played Annie Wilkes, even though they wanted Angelica Houston and Bette Midler. I mean, Bette Midler, honestly, kind of would have ruined it, honestly. I mean, not to say that Bette Midler's a bad actress, but you needed somebody like Kathy Bates to play Annie Wilkes. That was just too good of casting to let that go off to the side, I mean. But, I mean, really, there isn't that much more to say about Misery. It's a fantastic movie, a great thriller. Kathy Bates gives a great, chilling performance. James Caan is very good. The snow and the snowy effect of this movie and the way they use the snow in this is very well done. The visuals look impressive. This is great cinematography by Baron Sonnenfeld. One of his last films he did before he became a director and went on to direct the Addams Family movie the year later. But, I mean, I have nothing else to say. This is a fantastic movie. I mean, Misery is amazing. If you haven't seen it already, definitely check it out. So, let's go ahead and move on to the second movie, which I really do not know a whole lot about, Diamond's Edge.
Tim Diamond. You must be Tim Diamond.
You are Tim Diamond. It's not easy being the talk of the town with only a dwarf for a client. Especially when you haven't got a clue. But that's how it began.
My name is Naples.
Johnny Naples for the Diamond Brothers.
Diamond. Tim Diamond. You want a cushion? No. I want to give something to you. Dispatch.
He may have been a little guy, but what he carried meant big trouble.
And the fat dog. I want that package. Do you understand?
He owes a client of ours a lot of bread.
We'll cut you in for a slice.
Now the dwarf, he wasn't talking about anything to anyone anymore.
Really a private eye.
And the diamonds.
Some sort of private eye?
Could either see the picture
On it right there. Tim Diamond, private eye.
or land in the frame.
Boyle here is really into police brutality. I'm wanted for 2 murders. The Saturn wants to kill me. My client is dead. My office has been torn apart.
You could say they were carried away by their work. Kidnapped, shot up, and fitted for a concrete bodysuit.
You think you're going just a little too far?
But these diamonds just don't crack. Diamonds are forever.
You're brilliant!
And they're coming at you in...
Well, I am a detective.
Diamond's Edge.
I mean, if Wikipedia can't even find a description or a page for this movie, it probably doesn't have a whole lot of memorability to it. I mean, I've been looking online for the last couple of minutes now trying to find something what I can use to talk about this, but everywhere I go, it's either under a different title, it's either a different year. One page says it came out in 1988, but on Box Office Mojo it says 1990, so you know what, screw it. I mean, I acknowledge that it exists. I acknowledge that it came out in 1990 on the same weekend. I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on it. So, yeah, I've got nothing on this one. So, Diamond's Edge. It came out in 1990, apparently. So, that's it.